Hi guys, so I'm going to be showing you how to make some homemade clay. What you're going to need for this is some salt. I got a really big thing of salt. You're going to need some all-purpose flour, and you're going to need some water. I stirred all that up with a spoon, and then it got to a certain point where it turned into dough. And I just used my hands at the very end to kind of mix it all together, and then you're gonna get something that looks like this. So I have on my table a cutting board. You could use wax paper on your table, or maybe like cling wrap tape to your table. That will help kind of limit your mess. But I have a cutting board right here, and then you're gonna get like a cookie sheet, something with a little bit of depth to it. And this is what you're going to put your clay pieces on. Now these are pieces that I have already baked, just so I could do it first and see how to do it. And I'm gonna show you how to make a couple of my favorites that I baked. Now, you can make whatever you want out of this stuff, but what I have found is that the best things are kind of thinner pieces. So like this piece right here, very thin, maybe a little too thin back here, but it stayed together very well and it completely baked all the way through. So yeah, I just be careful about what you make. Try to make thinner type things. So I'm gonna show you how I made a couple of my favorite ones. So the first thing you can do a lot with this is make those spirals, and you can make a lot of things out of spirals. So here's my spiral. And I don't make the hole in the spirals till the very end. So I just make kind of like a little snaky guy. And then I just wrap it around until I'm happy with it. And then I just press it together. And once it bakes, you don't have to do a whole lot of like pressing too hard to keep it together. Once it bakes, it'll stay together pretty well. And then on the bottom, I have a little pen tool right here, but this is the same as the bottom of like a pencil or a pen, or even a stick that you find outside. And I just poke it through the top. And that gives me enough room for it to bake and for it not to close up. The other thing I really enjoyed doing was doing the imprints of jewelry. And if you're using someone else's jewelry, make sure to ask them. It's okay if you use it. This is my jewelry, so I think it's okay if I use it. So I'm gonna press it in, and I'm really not doing it too lightly. I'm slowly pressing it in, but I want it to capture every part of this. So then I lift it out, and then I have my piece. And sometimes with these jewelry pieces, it might be good to do it directly on the pan because they can get a little thin and start messing up. So I held it up and poked it through, and then I'm gonna put it on here. Pull it off, and it might get a little stuck. Just gonna pat it back down. And then directly on here, I'm just gonna press my tool through so that I didn't have to pick it up and it didn't end up looking all mishmash like that one. So the beads, very simple. I just rolled up a little ball. I took my tool, remember, bottom of the pen, something like that, and pressed it through. Now this one might be a little too thick. If I start pressing the sides like this, it might be a little too thick. So I take my fingers and I press it out, because remember, we want it to bake all the way through and we don't want the little bead hole to get lost. You can make different types of beads if you want to, different shapes, stuff like that. The other thing I made was my little turtle, and you can make any sort of figurine. I always start with the body. And then you can make little legs. And when I attach things, remember they're gonna bake together. So I didn't really press too hard on that. I mean, I might press down a little bit more. Another thing I would make directly on the pan. And once it starts cooking and you're gonna flip them over, it'll be different. Now you're going to bake it when you're ready. You're gonna preheat your oven to 250 degrees. You're gonna cook them on one side for 30 minutes, and I take mine out so I can flip all the pieces onto the back and cook for 30 more minutes. Then you wanna check your pieces and see if any of them need additional time. All right, here are some of my finished products from this activity. The first thing I made was a necklace with some beads, and I used some cheaper paint to just paint over all my little beads and stuff. And this is the paint that I use. It's called Craft Smart. It's like 70 cents at Walmart or Hobby Lobby or wherever. You can use just one as a nice little pendant. Here's my little peacock one. You can make it into a necklace. Here's another one I did. And I did like white paint on first, and then I did like dry paint over what I had already done, so you can kind of see your imprint a little bit better. And then with my second batch, what I made was a little wind chime. And I didn't paint these to show you guys that you don't need paint to make something, but I did use string and some sticks I found from out in the yard to make this cute little wind chime. So just use whatever you have. Think about your materials before you start making things. And you can always make these little necklaces and not have to paint them. You could use colored pencils or markers to go over it. The clay will hold a lot of different colors. So just experiment with what you have and have fun, guys.